People like to say that Gen Z is lazy, but after working minimum wage jobs, climbing to 22 an hour, and eventually quitting to work for myself, I realized something. We don't hate work. We hate jobs that lead to nowhere. As I've worked low-end minimum wage jobs for many years of my life, I have some experience as to why I left all of them and why the most successful peers of mine end up leaving them as well. And no, it isn't the fact that about 40% of job postings were fake in 2025. It isn't that we're lazy and we don't want to work, and it definitely isn't because we're brainwashed by TikTok. It's quite the opposite. I spoke about it in my first video on his channel, but to summarize, one thing my boss told me when I handed in my 2-week notice to pursue YouTube full-time stuck out to me for life. She told me, "This is just a job, not a career." That message has shifted how I see, navigate, and honestly use society to my advantage. I'm going to talk about why 3 groups of my generation hate working, as 2 of them I've personally lived through, and the 3rd I'm pretty much at now. Breaking this up by low-end workers, so minimum wage, starting out job, no experience, no raises, and no promotions to look forward to. Then we're going to work up to mid-end workers, so these are people making around 18 to 20 plus an hour, or they have some fair salaries, maybe some health benefits, as well as a retirement plan with their work. But the last one, the high-end workers, the 50K to 100K a year earners, as well as business entrepreneurs and future CEOs. So to begin, on the very low end of Gen Z, you have the kids like me, raised in either defunct households or just fell down the wrong path in high school. And let me tell you, being an 18-year-old fuck-up in the 2020s is not easy. It has never been, I think, in any generation, but it might as well just be a humiliation ritual at this point. Working at a grocery store, it was considered a essential frontline job during COVID, and that was when I started to feel like this stuff is just a simulation. I noticed self-built businesses in my small town closed down. Meanwhile, our mega corporation grocery stores and fast food chains could run with no problem. That's when I realized the rules of a game aren't the same for everyone. Which, don't get me wrong, when I did a 2-week employment course, everyone there wanted to become engineers, mechanics, things that were way beyond me. I remember saying, I just want to work at a grocery store, something local, it helps out people while I make a bit of money, and air conditioning would be nice too. My intentions with work were honest. Being raised off welfare, even a part-time job would give me more income than what I grew up having, so I was thankful to get a job fast. It was once I got to work that I realized the numerous actual problems with these lower-end jobs. To start, the training is very minimal. While I had to watch and answer a quiz on a video about the lifetime value of a customer, there really wasn't any hands-on training that I received. On my first day at work, they told me to go to the chip aisle and face the chips. So pull the bags to the front of the shelves to make it look more full, as there wasn't any product to stock that day. With a single 15-minute smoke break to separate the 5-hour shift I had on aisle 7, it was a brutal night. This was the slowest day of work I had ever had, and it was only my first. I remind you, this is a pretty small grocery store, so it's like rare for 4 people to be in the same aisle. But even though it wasn't like really busy, nobody taught me anything. Eventually, I got given more and more responsibilities, and most of the time you're just quickly told what to do. I remember my manager trying to teach me one day about rotating and spotting out bad produce, and because we had a truck come in and he had to unload it, he couldn't give me the attentive training I needed as he was constantly back and forth. So for my first few months, whenever I worked, people were buying moldy pears, moldy tangerines, all this stuff because I didn't know the simple signs to look out for. Every day, the job felt demeaning. The work I was doing felt like a lot. I was stocking sometimes thousands of dollars worth of product per hour, which would need to be restocked by the end of the day multiple times. But meanwhile, my pockets felt empty, and society seemed to live around me, not with me. And it's just the fact that minimum wage doesn't cover modern life. Rent, groceries, and our modern technology tax, which is like, your phone, subscriptions, your internet bill, all that stuff adds up. And I think we can all agree, you can work full-time nowadays and still be left short. Minimum wage just covers survival. It does not cover progress. And when you do look at starting your own traditional business, you realize that over 50% of businesses have naturally failed or shut down in the first 5 years. Why would you even try that when you could just try to start a TikTok and make ad revenue? This generation has less tools to access in the real world, but online tools are like magic if we were to go back in time. I know most of us are tired of a dead-end job route. I respect grocery store workers, as not only was I one, but it's an essential in society. I don't want to have to stock my own groceries, and I think these people should get a living wage that, affords them a house, some savings, and a life in general. Don't dare tell me I'm an essential worker during COVID, then not want me to make more than minimum wage. Does essential worker just mean meaningless worker? I don't believe so personally, but let's just say we don't give up and we continue working like I did. I built up a few years of job history at this grocery store, and when one day I saw a posting for a full-time job at a thrift store with higher pay, more hours, and a few benefits along the way, this will bring us to the mid-level of workers, where you have some room for raises and advancement, but job security is something to be fought for. When I got to my new job, the pay was already above minimum wage, but without going too in-depth, even though it was a thrift store, I knew that it was a thrift store. As someone who grew up making videos, the potential stories, moments, and donations we could capture in video would be easy ways to reach people and promote the business. The charity that was in control and ran the thrift store had been super behind on their website, social media, like everything technology-wise. I knew how to do and could do it for them. So one day, I took a collection of frog-related items we had, and I made a short TikTok video to post to my own TikTok page. This was in contrast to the rules for my job. I knew the contract that I signed meant that I couldn't upload videos or photos from my workplace without proper permission, but I took the risk, and the next morning, the video had over 30,000 views and hundreds of likes. Lots of people loved it, so I took a risk. I let my manager know, and I had a more personal relationship with him, so I was able to make an outline on how I'd pitch TikTok videos, Facebook posts, and more to the head of our charity. Long story short, I created the systems at the place that they still use today, and now it's becoming more universally normal for every employee across the industry to create content for their workplace. But at the time, I stood out. TikTok had just come out a previous year or two, and I wanted to innovate the job field I was in with this opportunity that I had. And while I got to make videos for the company and I was expanding my skill set, it was added on top of all my regular duties, which increased as the months grew longer. More and more projects, charity planning, and in general, my life was just being spent on this job. There were some nights of a time where I'd edit videos for work instead of YouTube videos because I wanted to be valued that much by my employer. And in all, after a year and a half, it did go pretty well. I got 4 different raises, each at $1 an hour each. So I worked my way up all the way from $18.50 an hour to $22.50 an hour. It was nice, making almost $3,000 a month. The only problem though is small town syndrome. During the winter time, tourist season dies, and with that, people local to the economy of here have less money in general, so everything just slows down to a halt. I remember one day, our thrift store brought in a total of $80 across 14 sales. Just think of that. They made $80, they're paying me $22.50 for 8 hours, so they're already behind. Then they have 2 other employees to pay for, bills, and more. Let's just say it's stressful during the winter. You never know if you're going to have a shift next week or not until the schedule is posted. Meanwhile, during summer days, making $1,000 plus in profit is common. The contrast is wild in a small town, but even for the average wage slave, it's a battle to keep hours consistent in the winter time. But for me personally, the expectations for the job were getting out of control. They wanted me to get a car to drive almost 2 hours one way to get to their thrift store in a different town and work there. If I went there really wouldn't be a huge pay increase. It would maybe cover the gas if I was lucky, and I was already almost making as much as my managers at that point, so I thought, well, perhaps maybe if I can move to that town, then it wouldn't be that much of a problem. When I offered to do so, I offered in email, hey, if we can help find me an apartment, I'll rent it, pay first and last, we'll go forward and I'll be able to transfer over there no problem. Quickly, the offer was dropped, and it's just funny, had I had a car and I was willing to spend 4 hours every day driving, then sure, I would have had this job opportunity, but I was more than fine just staying where I was. But one day that stands out to me in general was when I had 2 days left to work. I was working and an older lady handed me a heavy box and told me, here, go sort these, slave. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I was standing there like stunned. My manager saw my eyes and overheard her say that. And he said, "Please don't call my employees a slave. We have a charter of rights against that." I went out for a smoke with him after and he told me, "Yeah, she's kind of a nasty bitch. Don't let her ruin every customer for you." And I think that statement was very true. She was a very nasty bitch. But also, I tried to make it not ruin every customer interaction I had, as I know a lot of customers were very nice. Plenty of the people that I had worked with as customers, over a span of a couple years were very sad to see me leave my workplace. I made connections with these people and it felt like I was leaving my community behind to pursue my dreams, even though I'd just be in my bedroom making videos. That's where I realized I had hit a point where I was better than just a job. I wanted a career after all, not a job, and I'd go on to live by that motto. Now I'm going to squeeze myself into here for the next role, but I'll be honest, I'm still a few steps away from making the big bucks. But let's talk about the people leaving for high-end work. The jobs that pay a lot are people who seem to have enough money to not need to work. What's the reason that people end up getting to this point? Well, here's what I've noticed. For an example, a personal friend of mine was doing very well. About 4 years ago for the story, I'm going to call him Dan. Now, Dan is around my age and was running a small tech business, starting with himself making websites and repairing electronics. Eventually, he was teaching his skill set to others, expanding his team to himself and two of his closest friends with good work ethic. He would create outlines to get work functions done and started to grow his business day by day. He even got a real storefront in my town, which was stunning at the time. A guy 1 year older than me, just 21, can do all of this, I thought. Meanwhile, when talking to him, he was beyond impressed by me and my YouTube channel. I only had around 10,000 subscribers at the time, but there was always things to talk about, and it wasn't anything to scoff at. To be fair though, his business was making a lot more, so I had a very high respect for this guy. Together, me and Dan connected on a very personal level, both not having the easiest upbringings and both being entrepreneurs in our own ways. We began to talk about business and work a lot. We used to talk about how much we wanted to provide opportunities we obtained for ourselves and provide those opportunities for others. We would talk about how the system was built to keep us there, but how we were finding ways to break out of it, and we were proving all of these things day by day with the businesses that we ran. Not all things were positive though. The storefront he opened, I think, was a big lesson. Quickly, the reality of how unprofitable the real world is set in. First, over $1,000 a month for rent for the storefront, not to mention lighting, hydro, heat, bills. At that point, he could have just gotten a really nice apartment for less and lived and worked out of it. His business by the end of the year had made him over $100,000, a six-figure sum, allowing him to have a fair wage of the two people he employed being paid above minimum wage. He realized that a majority of the money his business made was coming from his website design. On the flip side, most of the time they spent was actually on electronics repair, learning how to repair each model of device, haggling with customers, and overall the profit margin not being there made it really difficult to want to pursue making less money with repairing electronics versus making more money with pursuing website design. And he tried many other things as well, selling phone cases, video game stuff, accessories, other supplies, but all of it wasn't doing anything compared to what making websites was doing for him. Dan learned the hard way. While storefronts do give you credibility, overhead kills margins. He was making the most of his profit with websites, not repairing consoles. Time ROI matters much more than hustle. Another good story I can think of is when my manager at the thrift store, one of the many Northern Ontario employees, let off from the factories during the technology boom. It's something that happened to his generation 20 years ago, so if you don't think it's going to happen to our generation in many different workplaces, you gotta be cuckoo. History repeats itself, but the future is always new. From content creation to digital businesses to online platforms that didn't exist 10 years ago, we have so many reasons why we aren't going to slow down. But the truth is, my generation doesn't hate work. We hate wasting our time. We watched our parents work jobs that went nowhere, companies laid them off, and systems didn't reward loyalty. So while many might be caught in the trap of a mid to low end, some of us are trying to build our own paths. Whether that's through content creation, online business, real life business, or something completely new. I think it is worth pursuing because if you're going to spend your life working, it better actually lead you to somewhere. Start to play the game yourself, and like most of a successful, motivated young people like myself, you'll get to the next level as well. If you're interested in content creation, educating yourself, and making money online with like-minded people, then check out my school community in the description. It's free right now, so if you join up, if you're interested, I'd love to connect with more people and help them with any questions or any way I can to guide them to making a successful YouTube channel. But other than that, please just leave a like, subscribe if you like this video, and let me know in the comments section if you're my age and why you don't want to work anymore. But as always though, remember, the lemming theory is real, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.